Thursday boy. Thursday boy. It's very interesting how we do have the fake out, but we'll come to that later. All right, so we do have this rich person. What's his name again? He's all obsessed with Latin and whatnot, and this is her who is like, I guess, interested in the boy. I don't know. I mean, it seems that way to me, or she's just fucking bored and wants to rope people into her, like researching about the rich dude. Either way, very interesting. And yes, this is actually München. I was like, that looks familiar from like the general outlook, right? And it actually is München, like with the cathedrals and whatnot. It makes perfect sense to me. Like from the architecture, Friedrich Emanuel School. All right, so there's a school within the university, or is that just fucking the University of Munich? I'm not that familiar with the University of Munich. Karl Neumann, business management. So you basically went down the normal ass route. I mean, I don't blame you for it, okay? But like, whenever you meet somebody who's like, I study business, I'm like, oh, so you weren't interested in anything else. But you know, I mean, you can do something with it, right? It's very practical. Yeah. Lotte Frank, cultural anthropology. Obviously a lot of with society and how, right, anthropology is I mean, most of you know that, but anthropology is the study of men, the study of humans, because anthro means human and apology is then right, I guess the study of the science of, I don't know where apology comes from, but it's used for a lot of stuff. Right, I guess it's anthropo, and then ology, which is like psychology or biology, right? The science of humans. And cultural specifically, so she's interested on all things, probably specific cultures, in this case, maybe German culture in general. The male students read to him. And we, at the beginning, I thought this was like he's like some old-timey dude who doesn't accept women are like in academics or whatever. No, he's just a businessman, and he has these things with possible, like, maybe low-key this is how he searches for people who might be his children. Either because he got one child and he's searching for them, or because he got multiple children, although I think it's more the former, because we spin this narrative where he's like specifically focused on that. Yeah, and he has people on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, at least what we know of. Hans-Georg Schubert. Well, that sounds very rich and like whatever, or maybe just like businessman and whatnot, millionaire. But she's like, he's fascinating. People say he's calling the shots on the stock market, which is like, people tend to like to exaggerate things like that, right? Like create local myths and urban legends where they're like, this guy is pulling the strings. And you like to believe it because these stories of like larger than life things happening, somehow they kind of fuel us because we feel like, that could be me, right? That could be me one day, or that could have been me. That's interesting. That's out of the ordinary. It's something fantastical. I mean, this is why we love superheroes or fantasy stories or all of these things, because there's something in these stories that feels like the protagonists, on the one hand, we can very much identify ourselves with them, right, and project ourselves into them with certain characteristics they have, but on the other hand, they have these stories going on where there's a larger purpose in life that's going on around them, right? Responsibilities on them and powers that we could never imagine. And even though the responsibilities of that would probably be, if they existed in reality, super harsh and super like stressful, at the same time it would be very reassuring to know that we have a grander scheme, a grander purpose in life that we're supposed to fulfill, and to have these supernatural powers that not everybody has, feels special, right? And people are drawn to that. People are drawn to money, to power, but also to the fantastical in a way, to the mysterious. This is what he represents, because it doesn't project that much out of his own life. You just know he's a businessman, right? Or he used to be like a famous businessman. He's got millions, and somehow it becomes more and more. And how does it become more and more? It's dividends. It's obviously dividends. Like, I mean, you got a couple of millions or billions. At some point, it's just gonna become more and more down the line if you invest passively, right? Like, that's why it's such a big thing that these days people are investing passively to do their rent. And obviously people are gonna, like, there's always gonna be people in the game who are the losers, right? People who are losing money because they invested in the wrong thing. But you can't fix that, right? Obviously, if you try to kind of fix the general money problem, you can do that. Kind of just create a new system in which everybody can get along and trade with one another and whatever. But nobody has yet developed such a system that works properly, that does not put a certain group of people at an advantage. And even though capitalism does the same thing, capitalism basically puts like the rich people in an advantage to get richer and richer and richer. And that part of capitalism is kind of the worst part of it. Even though that is a thing, communism and the other things, they work the same way, right? Just in different, right? They put a certain group at an advantage, but in this case, it's not even a group that was at some point in time industrious, and now because they have accumulated a lot of money and hoarded that away, they get richer and richer. It's a group of people who came into power politically, or a group of people that are seen as superior to the others for some reason, right? Anything from stupid biological theories that hold basically no merit, all the way down to, I don't know, right? Even if you look like class systems, right? Royalty or mercantile or whatever. And then you get people who have more rights and more privileges, and they make the laws, and the laws are skewed in a way to make it easier for them and make it harder for everybody else to become part of them. And then they develop cultural rituals where they dress a certain way and conduct themselves a certain way. And as soon as they meet other people, they can recognize, oh, this is one of my people, or no, this is not one of my people. And that is how, even very subtly, you suddenly know, oh, I'm not gonna hire this person because they don't exist in my world. They're kind of like a commoner or whatever. I'm not gonna hire them. You don't need to say that, right? They actually recognize that, and sometimes they even subconsciously just do it, and they don't even consciously do it. They're just, oh, I have the feeling that this person is not suited for this. Even though they might be suited for it, right? They might be able to brave the challenge and whatever. You have that feeling because you picked up on all these subtle little cultural signs and whatnot that identify somebody as middle class or lower class or whatever. And you're not even aware that you're doing that, but this is influencing, like, that this is biasing your selection process of who you're enabling to actually get the chance to become part of the higher class. Or to keep being part of the higher class, stuff like that. It's insane how social structures develop like this, and we haven't found a system yet in which people can actually have an equal amount of chances based on, right? I mean, obviously based on skill. A person who is more skilled should have more success, and that is kind of sad because some people are just genetically born that way. But genetics is always just a part of a puzzle, right? We always have just a certain percentage where genetics plays a role, and then with those genetics, we have a certain span of where our abilities can go, and our environment and the way we apply ourselves and our motivations and our emotions and all of that is kind of playing a role in where we land on the spectrum. There can be people who maybe are destined to at the max develop abilities that are, I'm using IQ, but IQ is not exactly the best thing for that, because IQ is very predictive. That means that if you are a child and you get your IQ measured, it is very likely that you have like within a certain probability the same kind of IQ when you grow up. But either way, like let's say somebody is like destined to be within the range of 100, which is absolute average, to 100 and maximum 120 in terms of IQ. It can be a person, depending on their environment, how they grow up, what they do, right? The motivations they have, the tenacity they have, all of these other characteristics that are not pure IQ that they have, they only land at 100. Right, and then they just become somebody normal, somebody average, somebody who's just working somewhere and doing something and just earning their living and living their life and whatever. And another person, depending on all these environmental and external factors and whatnot, they manage to actually scrape the ceiling and get to the absolute max potential that they could get at, right? Because they're lucky here and there, and because they have good mentors, because they get all the right nutrition and whatnot growing up. They end at 120, and the difference to that is they can become like a high academic. Maybe they're not a genius like, I don't know, Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, whatever, but they are very high in terms of like what they can do, what they can earn, the things, the potential they can reach, all of these things. So genetics isn't 100%, right? So if we actually manage to make, at the very least, a system partially fair in terms of like that, people who are already rich, who already have it good, who already have their stuff coming in and security and whatnot, that they are not able to infinite money clutch themselves into basically becoming a family like two, three, 4 generations down the line, a family who is billionaires, as opposed to other people who are now in the middle class, and in a couple of generations down the line they will be poor. Because this is how the trend is going, right? More and more money to those people who already have enough of it, and less money to those people who could use a little bit more of it, or who maybe barely have enough to even survive. But yeah, we haven't found it yet. Although I'm sure there's a lot of interesting and good points where we could start with it, but starting with it is also hard because of how complex our social systems is, and everybody has their different motivations and whatnot. So yeah, but yeah, the people who are powerful, who have money, they're mysterious, right? They don't project a lot out of themselves. I went on a tangent, I'm sorry. And then you're like, there's a mystery behind this. And then it becomes grander than it actually is in the end, right? You're making it grander, like, he's pulling the strings of the whole country. And yeah. Sometimes it's true in the case of Johann in this case, but sometimes it's not. He's an influential person, most definitely, right? With a lot of money, a lot of business connections, he probably is a very influential person, but he has human issues, as you can see later in the episode. And these two, Lotte and I don't know how he was named again. Karl and Lotte. Might be a reference to something. And they have different interests, but they're both very. It's like he might be a vampire. They're like, girl, relax, okay? Relax. Yeah. You know that she didn't know that his mother was dead, but that's why he didn't search again for her. And I was like, right? I was like, maybe you already met her, or she's somebody like very, very shady, or she's dead. And it was the dead thing. And then people like with the prophecy about the Thursday boy and whatnot. Holy shit! Come on, stop it, monster. I don't even know what was that, like an ancient prophecy or some shit. What do you say here? This is my first big scoop. Yeah, right. perfectly clear that one of the men who founded the school in 1502, Bishop Gropius, wrote this. Okay, the founder of a school, random bishop. The most important part is this, like, the second last year. All right, he's doing predictions. He's like, I'm a prophet, probably on some shrooms or something. I'm just saying. We go into the red light district. I'm not gonna show these pictures again. I don't even know if I can show them on YouTube. The Vampire of Bayern. Just the truth behind the mysterious night out. I mean, sometimes the truth is kind of boring. Not gonna lie, right? Sometimes the truth is kind of boring. And kind of above your pay grade also. Yeah, you might get into some weird shit with blackmail and all this stuff going on. I mean, that was blackmail, right? They went up and she's like, I'm this woman, and he's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I know who it is. I know who my mother is. You're not. But she knows, she's like, he knows, I know, we're all fake, but he's paying it anyway because he wants to kind of just, but probably the 1% chance that it's true after all, he's paying for it, right? Or maybe he's paying for it because he feels like she knows something she isn't supposed to know, and if she blabs and all of that, it could become difficult. Or maybe he pays because, as she says, it makes him feel better. Because he feels like he is maybe doing something good for somebody else. I don't know. I mean, for me, that would not compute in this case because she's clearly somebody who's scamming him. So she's a nasty person. But maybe he feels like he's atoning in a way. Maybe she was related to her, right? Or knew her or whatever. Or maybe he knew her as well and he was like, yeah, I knew this person. I didn't have anything to do with them and they're posing as her, but right, I'm paying her off anyway. I don't know. These like amateur investigators, it's absolutely crazy. I hope nothing happens to them, honestly, with Johan involved in all that shit. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of amazing stuff in this episode on like a visual level. Some other stuff where I'm like, okay, this is very stereotypical, but I mean, it is what it is, right? There's a reason why stereotypes work. And he's very bright as a child, I gotta say. Like, he is very on point with like, all right, I know this and whatnot, but emotionally he's not there, right? Because he's like, all right, I can just visit him. This is like the emotional understanding, the theory of mind understanding of a child. Theory of mind is our ability to put ourselves into the perspective, into the shoes of somebody else, and properly empathize and guess what this other person is thinking and how they're feeling in the moment. That is, we call that theory of mind. And children only develop that over time. And he's not at the stage where he has all of it. She's very beautiful. And she doesn't hate him, so there was something going on between the two of them. And he has some emotional baggage, clearly, because we do see that later on he is like maybe just very emotional about maybe this being his real son. People not coming to lectures, it's like standard. Honestly, it's standard. Like, most of the lectures you go to, like maybe 2/3 of the class is there, right? People have to work, and work doesn't always pay attention to your individual student schedule. Sometimes you just gotta work on that day, and that's that. Because you're only needed then, and you're not needed at other times, and work's like, well, it's okay if you don't come, right? But we only need you there. We can't put you in anywhere else, so you're not gonna earn any money anywhere else. So if you wanna earn money, you gotta earn it here. And then you gotta do it, right? Or you have 2 lectures which overlap. Sometimes that's the case, right? With scheduling and whatnot, some people are not going by the book when it comes to like which modules, which subjects you take in which order, right? There's obviously an order that is recommended, in which case like the general subject is built up, right? The overall degree, where you're like, in the first year you do this, in the second year you do this, and all of that. But obviously There's sometimes you fail a class, or you can't take the exam because you have stuff going on in real life, or you're sick or whatever, so you have to shove it on to the next semester. And sometimes you're like, okay, this is actually pretty good, I'm gonna do this first because it works better with my schedule. So you shove things around, and I do like that you can do that actually with like the modules and whatnot. It's really cool that you can actually do that. But oftentimes, yeah, that's right. Then you end up in a situation where you're maybe not perfectly perfectly situated with the schedule, and sometimes two lectures overlap, or a seminar and a lecture overlap, and then you just have to decide which one is more important. And you just have to work through the material on your own at home. That's just how it happens. It's great for freedom as a student, but at the same time, obviously, it means that sometimes things are gonna get shoved around and you're not gonna be in every lecture, and sometimes you're missing stuff, and obviously you won't see every student of a certain subject in every lecture. And the professors in most universities, not in all, but in most universities, they tell you, you know what? Technically, you need to attend a certain amount of lectures, but this is your responsibility. If you're not coming, that is fine, as long as you have the material, as long as you understand the material, and you can pass the end of semester exam. This is up to you, and it is your responsibility because you're the person who wants to learn these things. You are interested intrinsically in this studying subject, in this degree. And you're gonna do it on your own. And if you can't do it because you've missed too many lectures, or you're missing the context and it's not good enough, then that's your problem, right? I'm not gonna help you, but I'm also not gonna scold you like you're some kind of like 16, 15, 14-year-old person going to school. That's not what we're here for. We're all adults. But yeah, this is how somebody like Johan can easily pose as a student, kind of write in his stuff, right? But yeah, we find out later on that this is not, right? The Thursday boy is not Johan, but it's a Friday boy. Sorry, I was talking to myself. You can go home. I was like, why are you still coming? And he's kind of testing him, right? He's teasing out some information and whatnot. And yeah. He is like, I guess this time, seems the boy who appeared this time is the real thing, right? He feels it maybe, right? And he also sees it in the answers. And this guy doesn't want any money. He's just there for emotional closure. So he's like convinced. Now, obviously, I'm pretty fucking sure. I'm pretty sure he's talking about Carl, but he could also be talking about Johan. Because we know how good Johan is in faking this shit. But I guess maybe Johan is just interested in being close to this person, and figured that he rather go for the angle of, I'm not your son, but I kind of like you, and we kind of have rapport going on. That's possible too, right? He's not always posing as the son, and that way he's more at like a backseat, and he can manipulate the people who are directly and emotionally and like maybe even family-wise engaged with you. So wonder why the Thursday boy killed themselves, huh? Right? Not be surprised if Johan has anything to do with that. So that's how it is. That's how it goes most of the time. Yeah, very cool, very cool. Seeing that must be terrible as well. But yeah, Lotte actually knew him. Lotte actually knew him. And she like, let me introduce you. I already knew it, like from the hand, like how ghostly white it is, which is insane. I was like, this is the Friday reader. Nice to meet you, Carl Neumann. And he's like, I'm what was his handle? Oh no, he actually uses Johann Liebert. Holy fucking shit. Johann Liebert, I'm a law major. Wonder if he's out of Munich, right? If he's actually a law major, because he's using his Johann Liebert persona here, right? Which is very interesting. Maybe at this point he doesn't use wrong personas anymore, unless he's actually engaging with somebody else outside of Munich. That's possible. Either way, law like Nina. What does that tell us? Holy shit. And we do have the new monster pick, which is like the bro being celebrated as a hero and then the monster breaking out and everybody fleeing and they didn't see it coming, right? That's what we know about, like, serial killers sometimes and whatnot. Hey, he was a normal person. I like to talk to him, right? He was so nice. Yeah, sometimes that's also the case, right? I mean, sometimes they're creepy and weird and whatnot, and right? And it's clear as day, and sometimes they're perfect chameleons. Yeah. Right, next episode will be a follow-up, so, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'll be watching the next episode right away. Let me see.